All right, I want to start tonight by talking about defense, and more importantly, why it's something that I always pay super close attention to when I'm evaluating playoff teams, and why it is, in my opinion, the most reliable thing in a playoff environment. When I'm looking at the top defenses in the league since January 1st, I want you guys to think about what stands out to you. Number one, since January 1st, Boston. Number 5 since January 1st, Miami. Number 4 since January 1st, Dallas. Number 7 since January 1st, Golden State. The other teams in that group above them, number 6, Toronto. Number 3, Memphis. Number 2, Phoenix. Do you guys think it's a coincidence that 6 of those 7 teams won a playoff round and had an opportunity to make it to the conference finals? Both teams, Memphis and Phoenix, got close to making it to the conference finals. Defense is the most reliable thing in the playoffs because it doesn't depend on anything outside of your control. When you execute offense a certain way, if you get to your spot and you raise up into a shot, there's no guarantee that it will go in. But for the most part, if you play really good defense and you smother every easy opportunity that's on the floor and you force guys to make extremely difficult contested shots over the top of you, that's one of the most reliable things in the game of basketball. You know, Boston's offense is incredibly inconsistent. It's been the number one reason why they've been such a Jekyll and Hyde team. Hasn't burned them yet, but there's still one round. And if there's one team that could burn them in that department, it's Golden State. So that's not a super reliable thing for them. Some nights they shoot well, some nights they don't. You know, some nights Marcus Smart, it seems like he can't miss. And then other nights he's jacking up stupid shots and letting another team get back into the game and almost costing you your season. But there's one thing that Boston can do that's incredibly dependable, and it's lock in on the defensive end of the floor. From the 11-minute mark to the 6-minute mark of the fourth quarter, so a 5-minute stretch, when the season was on the line, Jimmy Butler makes a layup, gets it to 82-79 at the 11-minute mark of the fourth quarter, and Boston locked in and did not allow a single point for 5 minutes of game clock. And by that point, the game was basically over. They were up 11. They went up 90-79. 8-0 run. So Boston only scored 8 points in that 5-minute stretch. It's not like they were lighting the world on fire on offense, but they sat down in a defensive stance. They trusted their scheme. They made extra effort plays. They secured defensive rebounds, and they were able to close the deal. And that's why that element of having, you know, this is why when you see these teams through the regular season, teams like the Lakers this year, the teams that have a certain amount of talent and they have nights where it looks good, but like they just don't have a defensive identity, and you see them talk ambitiously at all. Like I remember Anthony Davis at one point this year was like, all we got to do is win 10 games in a row and everything's going to be fine. You're not winning 10 games in a row if you don't defend. You're not making a deep playoff run if you don't defend. And once again this year, it's been the teams that defend that make it to this point. And it was Boston, a team that has a lot of offensive talent, a lot more offensive talent than Miami, that locked in at a pivotal stretch of the fourth quarter of Game 7 on the road because it's the most dependable part of their basketball identity, and they were able to close the deal. I didn't agree with everything they did. I thought this was their worst defensive series of this postseason when you factor in the talent they were playing against. They gave up a lot of points to Brooklyn, but they had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Seth Curry, and Kyrie and Patty Mills. They had a ton of shooting. That was a whole different type of matchup. Boston gave up way too many points in this series to a team that had no business scoring that much. And I disagreed with some stuff. They left Jimmy Butler on an island way too frequently. I saw a lot of people talking about how Jimmy Butler, I mentioned it myself, Jimmy Butler played better in this series in the pivotal moments than even Giannis and Kevin Durant did. But I thought a lot of it had to do with the coverage. Boston was willing to stay in single coverage. They dropped on all of Miami's shooters, which I thought was weird. They did some weird stuff in this series, but at the pivotal moment, they were able to lock in and get it done. And 2 massive shots from Jayson Tatum, that huge pull-up 3 along the left wing and that fadeaway in the middle of the floor over Jimmy Butler kind of reminded me of the shots that he hit in Game 6 to stave the comeback from Milwaukee as they extended the series there. But it was their defense that closed the deal. It was their defense that was most reliable. And that's exactly why when we are looking at these teams in the regular season, let's not galaxy brain ourselves. Let's not overthink it. No more paralysis by analysis. The teams that are locking in and defending are the teams that go on the deep runs. Best defense since January 1st. I'll read them again. Boston 1, Dallas 4, Miami 5, Golden State 7. All 4 of them made the conference finals. And Golden State was defending for the lion's share of that stretch without Draymond Green, and still that high. So it's another interesting and resounding lesson in NBA playoff basketball. One quick note on Boston: they're at the end of the game. It's basically over. You're up 9. All you got to do is run the clock out. And as has persistently been the case with this Boston offense throughout this entire era, this entire playoff run, their shot selection has been the death of them. You've got Marcus Smart taking shots, 3-point shots with 14 on the shot clock when you're just trying to run the clock out against a Miami Heat team that literally can't score. But they kept getting out in transition because what happens when you miss a 3 off the back rim? It's a long shot, long rebound, chance to run out. Next possession down the floor, you got Jaylen Brown with like 17 seconds on the shot clock, driving along the baseline, forcing it into traffic and trying to make a layup and missing it, and falling down while Miami runs out the other way and scores. And it almost burned them. Jimmy Butler had a pull-up 3 to win the damn series and to send Miami to the NBA Finals. Like I said, it was going to burn them. It's very possible that this burns Boston at some point, and it came this close to burning them tonight. And Golden State is a much, much better basketball team than Miami. They basically are Miami with more talent. They're well coached. They have an amazing culture. They have great leadership. They're not scared. They've been in all these moments before. It's an entirely different level that they're stepping up to there. One thing I'll say, because I thought the shot from Jimmy Butler was bizarre, and it didn't make sense to me because he had that advantage going downhill. One thing I'll say about Jimmy Butler pulling up that 3, I don't think they had enough gas for overtime, and I think Jimmy Butler knew it. I think he saw the writing on the wall and said, this is my chance to win the series. My chance to win the series is I make this shot, not that I tie this game and I send it to OT, because I think OT would have been advantage Boston, especially with just the overall talent advantage that they had. But all of that said, Boston time and time again, for as much as I've given them crap, for as much as I've criticized them and their attention to detail and their ability to execute, time and time again in this playoff run, when they've had their back against the wall, they've come out and played a good game, and they did tonight. They controlled that game from start to finish, really weren't really threatened until that Jimmy Butler pull-up there at the end. So it was an impressive win. And I thought they were easily the best team in the East. I've probably, of all the guys covering the league, I've been pretty high on Boston, but then again, I'm also the one that trusts them the least in terms of their capability of hitting that ceiling. But applause to them. They made it to the NBA Finals. And I mean, as far as Jayson Tatum goes, like you played with fire. You let Jimmy outplay you a few times, but you made the big plays down the stretch of this game. You got it done. I thought you were the best player in the series and rightfully are taking your team to the finals. I wanted to talk for a couple of minutes really quick about Miami looking forward. This lack of offensive production that plagued them once again tonight is something they have to address. There's only so much that culture can do for you. There's only so much that coaching can do for you. At a certain point, talent wins. Look at this Boston team. They executed at a much lower level than you. As much as I like Ime Udoka and he's done the job he's done for Boston, I thought Ime Udoka got outcoached in this series. All of that stuff happened, and Boston still won because they simply had more firepower. And you could argue that Boston just didn't bring their best effort because they didn't have the appropriate respect of Miami. At what point do you address that? At what point do you cash in whatever it is that you have in the asset trove for some type of high-end star talent to try to bolster what Jimmy has to do? It's just too much for Jimmy to have to do. I mean, Bam Adebayo cannot score in the short roll even. Not only did he fail to score in isolation, Boston's running a drop coverage, and Bam's getting pocket passes, catching at the elbow with the head of steam, unguarded, with nothing but Al Horford under the basket, and he can't make a floater. It was killing them tonight. The lack of threat he was as a scorer in the short roll. It's whatever. If you're building around the idea that you think Bam and Jimmy are going to be your offensive fulcrums, it's just not going to happen. Bam's been in the league too long. And up here, he's just naturally a role player. He doesn't have he just doesn't have that aggression and confidence to consistently make teams pay for not guarding him. This is jarring. Miami had 16 assists tonight. Remember, Golden State in game 5, closing out Dallas, had 37 assists. Like, think about that. More than twice as many assists in that game. Now, Golden State has more offensive talent, but what you're seeing here is this is a Miami team that cannot create advantages consistently against elite defenses unless it's Jimmy Butler. And if you're not creating advantages, you're not getting the defense in rotation. And if you're not getting the defense in rotation, you're not making drive and kick plays to shooters. And if you're not making drive and kick plays to shooters, you're not getting assists, which is what Golden State does. At a certain point, they have to find another guy that's next to Jimmy that can persistently compromise the defense. That has to be addressed this offseason. Last but not least, in the finals for Boston, I still think they have the best offense. When they're clicking on both ends, I think they're the best team. Even better than Golden State. Because I don't think Golden State has the defensive personnel that Golden State has. But their inability to execute is a huge problem. Steve Kerr is also very capable of exploiting that. And I believe he will have a game plan very similar to Eric Spoelstra that will bait Boston into their ugly side. And if Boston plays to their ugly side enough times in the series, it will cost them. I'm not going to do it tonight, but at some point in the next couple of days, I'm going to release a full-length breakdown of this Boston Golden State matchup. I'm going to break down some film. I'll have some film study for you guys. We'll get into the weeds. I'll have all the numbers. So stay tuned to the Volumes YouTube channel at some point in the next couple of days, and you guys will see my full breakdown of the series. Once again, congrats to Boston. I'm personally thankful that Boston won because I think it's a much more interesting NBA Finals series. I think Boston versus Golden State, they're the two best teams. I think it's going to be an incredibly close series, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Like I said, stay tuned in the next couple of days for a breakdown, and I will see you guys then.